right. So, good afternoon. Bonjour tout le monde. Mon nom est Nadine Duguay-Lemay. Je suis la présidente directrice générale de Dialogue Nouveau-Brunswick. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à notre dialogue public, notre parcours entrepreneur et fondateur noir et autochtone en partenariat avec l'Association africaine du Nouveau-Brunswick et Battle of the Arts New Brunswick. J'ai le plaisir d'animer ce dialogue aujourd'hui en compagnie de mon ami Andrew Bungor, directeur à la création à Battle of the Arts New Brunswick. Andrew, such a pleasure once again to doing this with you today. Welcome, bienvenue.
Thank you very much. Salam alaikum. Thank you so much. Bienvenue again, Nadine. I am grateful to be here with you. And this has been an amazing journey. This has been an eventual journey that we're doing throughout this African Heritage Month. And I think it is amazing that we keep engaging, we keep bringing community members from both sides so that way we can keep talking and dialogue and share and fight and make sure representation matters very well. And I'm so happy with where we have started and the engagement we have been doing and the comments and all the suggestions that we're getting from outside. This is amazing. This is only going to make us grow. We're not going down, we're going up, and which is what we want. So I am so happy to be here today and host this alongside you and to have these wonderful conversations. Thank you, Nadine.
Oh, thank you, sir. As I'm joining you from Dieppe today, which I want to acknowledge that the land from which I'm joining you is the traditional unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered, of course, by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Wolastoqiyik, the Mi'kmaq, and the Peshkottumakati people first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact, recognize the Wolastoqey, Mi'kmaq, and Peshkottumakati title and establish the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. I'm grateful that we can all virtually join here together today, and grateful too for the first people who shared their ancestral homelands with us all. I invite everyone to write in the chat from which unceded territory that you are joining us today. I always like to say very quickly, in case you don't know, for New Brunswick, you know, you kind of follow the St. John River. So if you are on the east side, if you're looking at New Brunswick map, then you're on the Mi'kmaq traditional territory. If you are on the side of the St. John River west, then you are on the Wolastoqey territory. And of course, southwestern, there's a part that is the Peshkottumakati. So we do thank Dr. David Purley, who shared this resource with us and who is on our board. So for those of you watching Facebook, please note that translation is not an available feature through Facebook Live. It is, however, available within the webinar here today. We are also recording this dialogue so that viewers can watch it at a future date. Thank you to Rogers TV, who will also be streaming this dialogue on their channels. J'aimerais aussi partager avec vous quelques informations au sujet du fonctionnement. Tout d'abord, comme je l'ai dit, la traduction est disponible pour ceux qui sont à l'intérieur du webinaire. Vous n'avez qu'à activer la fonction interprétation, le petit bouton qui se trouve au bas de votre écran. Les directives sont mentionnées dans le clavardage. Comme ceci est un webinaire, il est normal que vous ne voyez que les panélistes et les animateurs. Vous pouvez participer activement tout au long du dialogue en commentant dans la fonction clavardage ou encore en écrivant votre question à l'aide de la fonction Q&A, qui est donc la foire aux questions. Il est possible de communiquer votre question à une personne spécifique ou encore à tous les panélistes. Ceci s'applique également dans la fonction clavardage, alors que vous pouvez choisir que tous les participants et panélistes voient votre commentaire ou seulement les panélistes. Et maintenant, je passe la parole à nouveau à mon co-animateur pour l'introduction des panélistes.
We are here today with Black and Indigenous business and organization founders and leaders. All are experts taking the time to share with us here today their knowledge and experience. So join me welcome Yusuf Sherride, President of the New Brunswick African Association. Brother Yusuf, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sir Andrew. Thank you, Nadine. It's a privilege to be here today with all my colleagues and the rest of founders and entrepreneurs in this panel today. So we can start with a question.
Now again, I would like you, everyone, to help me welcome Matthew Martin, Executive Director for Black Lives Matters New Brunswick. Matthew?
Hey folks, thank you for the invitation. I look forward to speaking with everyone here and discussing and expressing our viewpoints and sharing our experiences as organizations, leaders, and entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much. Joel McPherson, CEO, the Black Rose Nation. Joel?
Shay Hotep, co-CEO with my queen, my Earth Tanya. Don't forget to mention that. Also known as Babaluai Nu Shabazala. I'd like to say it's great to be here with this beautiful crowd, strong people I've been following on Facebook for some time or on social media sites, and it's really invigorating to be part of this. The world is crazy in many aspects, but today I'm smiling with all you folks.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. We are looking forward to the conversation. I also want to take this opportunity to welcome my sister, my auntie, my mom, an elder, an inspirational someone who always share right from her heart, who have stand and fight very hard. Since I came here to New Brunswick, to Canada, I recognize the work she is doing. This is no other person but Dr. Mary Louise McCarthy Brandt, founder of Reach. Mary?
Hi, everyone. And Sa, you're going to make me cry, okay? I'm pulling myself together here. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. And I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about my new, it's a not-for-profit business, but it speaks to the Black communities in New Brunswick, and I want to tell their stories. And I look forward to sharing our progress so far. It's just a 2021 business that's been incorporated. So I look forward to sharing my goals.
Thank you so much. We are looking forward to that. And I also want to introduce Jenny Alate, co-founder of Miramichi Afro Connection. I met her and Jenny a few years ago when I went there with MAP, Making Africa Proud, did events, host events. She is a very phenomenal somebody working up north. This is amazing. Jenny?
Bonjour tout le monde, je vais parler en français. Oui, je suis la présidente de Miramichi Afro Connection. Je suis contente d'être ici pour vous parler de notre communauté à Miramichi qui regroupe les communautés noires d'origine africaine et caribéenne et tous les sympathisants qui sont de la communauté locale. J'ai hâte de la discussion. Merci.
Merci, Jenny. Now I want to introduce Precious Abigail Didam, a model, actress, and a pageant. Precious?
Jalasi, welcome, bienvenue. I'm Precious Abigail Dam, and I am very thankful to have the opportunity to be here with you guys. And thank you, Nadine, for letting me join you guys. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. We are looking forward to the many conversations we're going to have here today, all of us. Now, I want to introduce a friend, as somebody who is a very, 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 very technical, somebody who has his own studio and production and all of that here in New Brunswick, Fredericton specifically, Dylan Ward, owner of Shiftwork Recording. Dylan?
Hi, everybody. Sa, thank you for asking me to be part of this. I'm very excited to hear what everybody has to say and to learn from each other. And I have my notebook here, and I actually have a quote from Elder Donna, who I was part of a similar kind of webinar thing. And one thing that she said that I wrote down was knowledge is not knowledge if it isn't given away. So I'm excited to hear all of your collective knowledge and go forward with it.
Thank you so much, Dylan. I hope everybody out there to get their notebook, because it is time to write, to gather all this knowledge and share. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for the introduction and for being here today. I'm going to pass this back again to Nadine.
Thank you. What a wonderful group and great energies. Awesome to see. So allow me to introduce the format of this dialogue if it's the first time that you join one of our dialogues. En français, le but de nos dialogues est d'obtenir une meilleure compréhension sur un sujet et non d'atteindre la résolution. Si à la fin de ces dialogues, vous avez l'impression d'avoir appris quelque chose, notre mission est accomplie. Sachez également que nous publions des rapports sur chacun de nos dialogues et que ceux-ci sont partagés avec les parties prenantes et le public via notre site web. En ce qui concerne le déroulement d'aujourd'hui, nous allons poser des questions aux panélistes afin qu'ils ou elles puissent nous situer par rapport à leur parcours, leur expérience, comme Dr. McCarthy-Brent disait, le progrès, les succès, mais les barrières aussi qui se sont mis devant eux. Par la suite, nous aurons du temps pour répondre à quelques questions et nous entretenir avec les participants. En tout temps, les participants peuvent, ou surtout dans le webinaire, peuvent se prévaloir de la fonctionnalité clavardage pour commenter. Et je vous demande de respecter les règles suivantes qui s'appliquent ici de la même manière que sur nos médias sociaux. Nous invitons chacun à faire preuve de respect et de courtoisie dans la publication de leurs commentaires. Les éléments suivants ne seront pas tolérés et seront systématiquement effacés. Les commentaires diffamatoires, abusifs et obscènes, les déclarations discriminatoires fondées notamment sur le sexe, la religion, la nationalité ou l'orientation sexuelle, les propos incitant à la haine ou à la violence. Ça, à toi pour le positionnement.
Merci. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Whether they are starting or taking over a business, Black and Indigenous entrepreneurs in New Brunswick face unique challenges and opportunities on their entrepreneurial journeys. What are their recipes for success despite the obstacles? What opportunities does New Brunswick present for Black and Indigenous organizations and founders? How can we overcome systemic racism in the entrepreneurial environment based on experience of founders of Black and Indigenous organizations in New Brunswick? This public dialogue will provide valuable insights from experienced founders, from leaders, in support of Black and Indigenous organizations, and the opportunity to explore solutions to make New Brunswick a more equitable and supporting province for Black and Indigenous organizations.
That's awesome. Thank you, Andrew. So now we are going to kick it off with our first question. So I remind our panelists, so it's the same question. Precious, we've adapted the question for you, so I will ask at the last, you'll go last with this adapted question. But just to kick it off in about 5 minutes, if you can each tell us your story with the organizations you are currently leading. How did you come to embark on your entrepreneurial and leadership journey? So Dr. McCarthy-Brent, we will start with you, please.
Thank you, Nadine. Well, to say that my organization began at a particular date would kind of start with me at birth, because I have been a seeker of knowledge, a seeker of my community. And as I grew up and experienced much discrimination, systemic racism from businesses, I felt for me that education was my key to survival. So I sought education. I have two bachelor's, two master's degrees. I can't speak, but I can write. And I recently in 2020 defended my dissertation. But all of my work has been on understanding the lives of my ancestors. And particularly, I became so aware of, because I am so mentored by the elders in the Black and the Indigenous community, I used to spend time in a particular graveyard talking to my grandmother. And I became fascinated with the Black graves, and my dissertation focused on that, on segregation in life and death was the title of my dissertation. And so I decided, once I finished that wrestling of the beast and working full time and finishing my dissertation, I decided to start a nonprofit that is geared to two main focuses, the nonprofit reach. It's reach in New Brunswick, and it's remembering each African cemetery's history. So our very first mandate is to work to eradicate the erasure of Black history in New Brunswick. So first of all, we are collecting Black history and stories. And the second important document or important mandate is we are documenting and finding and repairing lost and forgotten Black graves. I, in fact, have been in touch with the federal government, and I really see my quest for documenting Black graves as a national product. And you know how with the military institution, you have a whole dossier and a database of military graves. I want that for my community. I want the next generation to come up and put in the computer their surname and try to find where their ancestors are buried. So that's basically my very new, I incorporated in April of 21, and we got our first grant a week or two ago. We're waiting for the money to hit the bank, but we got a very lovely grant, and I will not say the amount because it has to be in the account before I know it's ours. But we're very happy to be, it's kind of validating when you do get funding, and it was from a Black-led organization. So that's my little 5 minutes on reach.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the creation of this wonderful not-for-profit. If Dialogue New Brunswick can be of assistance and amplify the work that Reach does, I publicly lend a hand or, prêter ma main to say, great job. This is absolutely wonderful. I like how you say education was key to success from birth. Right? So we have a recurring theme going on already, right? Knowledge can only be knowledge if it's shared. Education is key to success. So on this note, let's turn it to now our friend Matthew Martin from Black Lives Matter New Brunswick.
Thank you. So for myself, I'd have to say that this journey didn't really for me start at birth. For myself, I grew up in St. John, New Brunswick, and a victim of racism, playing sports. We hear a lot right now around hockey of the amount of racism in hockey, and I grew up tolerating hockey. It was kind of pushed on me, but I enjoyed playing it, mostly in my later years in university. Did I really start to enjoy it? But playing it as a teen, I faced a lot of racism. Trying to find jobs, I faced a lot of racism and systemic racism, but it was something I always ignored until about 2 years ago. I began to have a family. I have 2 beautiful daughters now, but at the time of the birth of my first daughter was when we start to see the murder of George Floyd. And it caused a lot of kind of internal reflection. I see my fiance, we're getting very close to having our baby. And I start in my mind plotting, how am I going to explain racism to my white fiance? And that if our daughter comes out Black, so much stuff is going to happen to her that she's not going to understand. And that, over time we'll see us. Her name's Emma. So myself and Emma huddling in a corner, discussing and trying to navigate but struggles of explaining it to my fiance's family, who's also white, of, you're going to come into these things. People are going to treat her differently because of the color of her skin. And it caused a lot of stress on me. And when she was born, she came out very light complected. And I was super relieved that she was white. And with the murder of George Floyd, I really started to think back of how I felt relieved that my daughter was white, and how foolish I felt for being relieved, because here I was stressing over something that really shouldn't matter. And as it kept dwelling on me, I grew more upset with myself. And for most of my life, I've never talked about racism or addressed it. And I seen that as an opportunity to get involved in other Black organizations that we have here in St. John. At the time, we don't have any that are strictly Black focused. So I reached out to a lot of our community members here, and what turned to be the original board members for Black Lives Matter. And we've seen a growth coming from an organization that we've seen here in St. John to now going provincial, partnering with other Black organizations who have been in New Brunswick for decades, but don't have their voices amplified. I mean, one of those partners, Yusuf, is one of those partners that we have now. We're working on a great youth project. But for myself, it was really just a reflective. It's enough sitting in the corner and not doing anything and not saying anything, because if I was feeling that way, I'm not the only person that's going to be feeling that way. And I was tired of hiding in the backgrounds and being in positions where I was working for employers and hearing blatant racism, and hearing blatant comments that were homophobic or transphobic, comments against our Indigenous communities, and I was just tired of hearing them. And I started to become more vocal, and get more involved in my community, to start reaching out to other Black organizations, and really start building that bond, with Yusuf and Bayo, and start bringing together our Black organizations, because we've all faced racism, whether on different levels, through our cultures, languages. But ultimately, we're facing a very similar battle, and all this really seen me. A lot of stuff happens in the background, but seeing the shift to where I am today. That's my 5 minutes. Nadine, I think you're muted.
Well, merci. Here it was starting off and I was muted. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Matthew, for sharing that context as to how Black Lives Matter New Brunswick came to be. It breaks my heart to hear that context, and especially your lived experience so far in New Brunswick, but I am not surprised, right? I'm not surprised, as systemic racism is just all around us, and that's why we're here. That's why we do dialogues like this. That's why my friends Yusuf and Andrew and all of you here today are doing what you can to fight this, and we are trying to amplify your voices. So thank you for sharing that context, and perhaps one day we can do something on biracial, right? Biracial kids, or how it is. Andrew and I have been kind of talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Just to touch on that, so that's very nice. Before Nadine move to the next speaker here, I just listened to Mary just spoke, and the work you're doing phenomenon. It's good that you've been recognized and getting the support to actually go and do it more. And Matthew, and this is amazing what you do and what you face and how you are approaching it. This is amazing. This is why we're here, to share, to all stand by one another and support one another, amplify you, and until you get what you want, we all fight the challenges and bring solutions. So let's share, let's look at the barriers, let's talk about our successes too, because there's also success, right? So as we proceed, let's take notes. Those who have books, those who are watching us from a distance, you have your notepad, right? because we want you not to just keep it here. Go and share to the world. Go and share. All right, back to you, Nadine.
Ah, well said. Well said. So we will now turn it over to Yusuf Sherry, President of the New Brunswick African Association.
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you, Sir Andrew. So for me, really, the New Brunswick Africa, I'll start with a little bit background of New Brunswick African Association and when it was founded. The New Brunswick African Association has been operating since 1999 as a community organization and a means to bring Africans, newcomers together in the community and helping the international students and foreign workers that they're coming from the continent of Africa. The New Brunswick African Association been working in the community to ensure the social, economic, and cultural integration and development of African community in New Brunswick. And my journey really started in 2007 when I moved to New Brunswick and meeting the leaders in my community here in 2007 and the work that they already been doing in the organization and the love that I had for my people, I wanted to contribute and to give my time to the community as we saw a big gap in eligibility for newcomers for the settlement services. Many newcomers, especially the Africans, do not get the services that they're eligible to them. So as New Brunswick African Association and the newcomer youth, we felt a lot of gap and we wanted to be able to address those things. So we made sure that, meeting with the community and I got to start with the New Brunswick African Association with Sir Andrew to make sure that, we have a place for us to be able to meet by going to meeting with our community elders and members and trying to find out what's their concerns. And one of the biggest things that we find, as African youth coming here, we didn't know how to get, we were big in soccer and football, they call it soccer here, but we call it football. And we wanted to start a soccer team. And most of us were trying to join other clubs that are already here in New Brunswick, Fredericton, and we couldn't join because they've looked at us as Africans or newcomers, and they didn't accept us in their circles. So he made us form our own soccer team, which was called International FC. So it was for everybody. All newcomers can come and join that team, and we can play against Fredericton Senior or New Brunswick Senior Men's League. So we started forming the team and we've been competing since 2008 and it's still going on. And that's been really a hub for the newcomers youth to come together and really address their concern and the issues that they're facing in the community, like racism in schools, in their homes or in their neighborhoods. So we've been seeing, and by playing soccer itself, and I just gonna echo to what Matthew was saying about racism in hockey. There has been really a uprising even in basketball, in soccer, of racism. So for us even playing as newcomers here, we were shocked, hearing university students calling us the names, directories' names when we were playing against them. And that made us even more resilient for us to be able to come together and try to educate one another to understand that, we have to be able to come together. And that's why pretty much our theme this year was Ubuntu, because Ubuntu is not just a word that we use in Africa and it's for people in Africa. Ubuntu is really for actually the people that are here in diaspora. We have to find one another to come together. So that was really my journey and how I got to be involved with the New Brunswick African Association in making sure we create spaces that we can be able to be ourselves and be comfortable and speak without being unapologetic of our issues, and we shouldn't be sugarcoating it. So I think that's my 5 minutes. Thank you.
That's wonderful. And I'm just, Sa, if you want to jump in at any time like you did, like just go, my friend, right?
Yes. No, that is it. I just want to let you shed a light on this first before I can take it on.
Okay. No, Yusuf, I do want to commend the New Brunswick African Association for its leadership, but especially with regards to the Dune Street file in the last year. You know, those are the kind of things that you guys do on a day in, day out that I applaud you for. So thankful for all the work that you do. Thank you.
It's and just to add on to that, Yusuf and I, we have went way back, and you know, since when he arrived, I arrived there before him and his brothers. Yusuf is like a dad to his own brothers. You know, he came here, he's the one standing and making sure these guys go to school and become good guys. And I was there with him every day, every day, every day. And thank you very much for what you do. And we are here today because we have stories to tell on how we can go up, on what are the challenges that hold us down, and so we can keep improving. So we're not going to back down. We're going to keep going. And that's why we're here today. Back again to you, Nadine.
Yes, well said. All right, let's turn it over. Jenny Arlette, tu vas être la prochaine. Si tu peux, s'il te plaît, nous raconter ton histoire ou celle du Miramichi Afro Connection.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Nadine. Je me rends compte que je suis la seule à parler français. Ben, je parle anglais, mais je suis plus confortable en français, donc c'est mieux de parler qu'est-ce qu'on a à cœur dans une langue où on se sent le mieux, quoiqu'il y a 3 langues dans ma tête, donc c'est pas ma première langue. Merci beaucoup. Donc, je vais plus parler de Miramichi Afro Connection que moi, parce que c'est l'organisation que je préside. Notre organisation existe depuis 2018. C'est vraiment pas une organisation vieille, mais on a été incorporé en 2019 en avril. Et comment est-ce qu'on est arrivé à fonder cette organisation-là? On n'est pas les premiers personnes de couleur noire qui sont arrivées à Miramichi, il y en avait, mais c'est juste qu'on s'est rendu compte qu'il y avait beaucoup de personnes qui venaient pour travailler pour le centre de paye de Miramichi, mais ces gens étaient venus pour travailler juste pour la carrière. Ils venaient, ils travaillaient, ils rentraient à la maison, ils n'avaient aucune vie sociale et des fois, c'était juste pour avoir l'expérience et ils retournaient là où ils revenaient de Montréal, d'Ottawa. Et quand moi, je suis arrivée ici, c'était vraiment très difficile de m'intégrer parce que d'abord, c'est un nouveau endroit, c'est rural, il y a pas beaucoup de personnes qui sont jeunes, la majorité de personnes sont plus âgées, il n'y a pas beaucoup d'activités et tout ce qu'il y a à faire, c'est dans la tête des gens. Les informations circulent par la connexion, par le network, que tu ne sais pas qu'est-ce qui se passe et pourtant il y a des choses qui se passent. Tu ne sais pas quel groupe adhérer à Facebook pour savoir qu'est-ce qui se passe. Et c'est comme ça qu'on s'est rendu compte que les personnes viennent, ils n'ont pas cette vie-là, surtout les personnes noires. Et tu te penses que tu es seul. À un moment, tu vas à l'épicerie, tu vois une autre personne, tu te dis, ah bon, il y a d'autres personnes. Oui, ça fait autant d'années que je suis ici. Ah bon. Et il te dit qu'il a vu une autre personne, mais il ne se parle pas. Donc, c'est comme ça qu'on s'est dit, c'est vraiment important qu'on fasse une organisation où on peut se connecter, où on peut être ensemble et qu'on attire les autres, qu'on dise, tu n'es pas le seul, il y a d'autres personnes. Peut-être qu'il y a d'autres personnes de ton pays qui est ici. Donc, notre organisation n'est pas vraiment pour les Africains ou les personnes de telle région, c'est tous les Noirs. Et même ceux qui ne sont pas noirs, tous les gens qui adhèrent à nos valeurs, c'est juste qu'on veut être ensemble, on veut s'intégrer dans la société, on veut être membre de la société, on ne veut pas être oublié ou n'avoir pas une vie sociale. Donc, on essaie de créer notre vie sociale comme on l'entend. Des fois, on n'a pas les mêmes ambitions, des fois, on n'aime pas les mêmes choses, on n'aime pas l'hiver, par exemple, mais on essaie de l'aimer. Donc, on fait des activités, on a créé un club de sport où aujourd'hui, on a plus de personnes de couleur blanc que des noirs parce qu'on est ouvert à tout le monde et on socialise, ils apprennent de nous, on célèbre chaque mois de l'histoire, mois de février, le mois de l'histoire des Noirs, sauf cette année où on ne savait pas comment y partir. L'année passée, on l'avait fait virtuel, mais cette année, on ne l'a pas vraiment fait. On a dit, on va le faire pendant l'été en espérant que les restrictions seront levées, qu'on pourra aller dehors et avoir le fun, comme on dit ici, et célébrer avec tout le monde. Ça, c'est un événement qui nous amène autour de 400 personnes. Tu regardes, tu sais même pas d'où les gens viennent parce qu'ils viennent de toutes les localités, tout autour de Miramichi, même de Moncton, des fois même de Fredericton. C'est comme ça qu'on a connu ça, qui venait nous aider. On fait des dialogues, dépendamment de qu'est-ce qu'on est en train de vivre, sur le racisme, sur l'intégration, toutes sortes de sujets qui nous intéressent. Et c'est comme ça qu'on a connu aussi Nadine qui vient nous aider aussi avec ces dialogues-là. On reçoit des subventions, on essaie de grandir. On est en train d'acquérir un bureau qui va être avec l'association multiculturelle. On a des projets qu'on travaille. On est vraiment chanceux parce que le centre communautaire Carrefour Beau Soleil nous aide beaucoup. Toutes ces activités qu'on fait, ils nous prêtent les locaux gratuitement. Ils nous prêtent toutes leurs infrastructures, leur personnel. On travaille avec l'association multiculturelle aussi. Le monde est très ouvert et c'est comme si on a fait quelque chose qu'ils attendaient parce qu'ils se disaient, est-ce qu'il y a des personnes noires ici? Où est-ce qu'ils sont? Ils viennent d'où? Comment ils vivent? On veut les connaître, on veut connaître comment ils vivent, qu'est-ce qu'ils mangent, savoir leur culture. Donc, comme l'année passée, par exemple, parce qu'on avait fait des choses, on a célébré virtuellement le mois de l'histoire des Noirs. On a, par exemple, dans mon travail, on a lancé un challenge de danse. C'était comment ça s'appelle encore? La danse Jérusalem. Je pense que Jérusalem, tout le monde connaît Jérusalem. C'est une chanson qui a été célèbre. Donc, il fallait danser, amener de chez toi ou au bureau ou avec ta famille. Moi, j'ai dansé avec mes collègues. On les a appris les pas. Vous pouvez aller voir sur Facebook. C'était vraiment intéressant et le monde était super intéressant. On a fait des répétitions et on a regardé qui était le premier. Donc, c'était vraiment quelque chose de bien. Et on trouve que ça nous aide aussi à sortir et à s'intégrer et à faire partie de la communauté. Puisqu'on a choisi de vivre à Miramichi, il faut qu'on soit impliqué dans le développement de notre ville, pour le bien de nos familles qui s'agrandissent et pour le bien de nos enfants. Donc, on veut vraiment s'impliquer. Donc, c'est comme ça que est né Miramichi Afro Connexion et on souhaite grandir plus et être plus impliqué et apporter quelque chose dans notre société. Voilà.
Ouais. C'est super ce qui est en train de se passer dans la Miramichi, Jenny. Puis oui, pour avoir travaillé avec vous, pour travailler avec les partenaires dont tu as mentionné, il y a cette effervescence qui se produit. Puis moi, j'étais là pendant 8 ans, donc je connais quand même très, très bien la Miramichi. Et puis, je vois ça. Je vois là, depuis les 5 dernières années, surtout que je suis à Dialogue, comme wow, il y a cette ouverture-là, on tend vraiment la main. Donc, je ne suis pas surprise d'entendre que vous avez autant d'alliés. Ça serait le fun que ça serait le cas partout au Nouveau-Brunswick, hein, que plus d'entités. Donc, pour ceux qui nous écoutent, c'est l'opportunité, ça se fait, les alliés, aller amplifier les voix. Alors, Jenny, merci beaucoup pour partager cette belle histoire de Miramichi Afro Connection. Ça, tu voulais ajouter quelque chose?
Oh yes, oh yes. This is amazing, Jenny, and thank you for all you do. And I see the work and the people around you that you work with, and how they are supporting. When I went there, I see so much love around you and your team. So that was really amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. And one thing I know about the African community, let's love. Let's love. We believe that you have to open and welcome other people who are not African. And that particular thing is there. So we want to keep that tradition of opening and welcoming more people to come on. Help me make me. Help me make me. So this is amazing. And that's why I am really happy to see and get into this conversation, learn from one another, and share this with the rest of New Brunswick and New Brunswickers and beyond. And there's always challenges, and which we'll come on to later on. And these challenges, we can all work on them when we all talk about them together and we find solutions together. I can do it alone, but I'm not going to go too far. Right? But when we do it together, then we can find solutions on how to attack those things. And that is what we are trying to create here. So thank you very much for sharing, Jenny. Thank you. Back again, Nadine.
Well said. Sa spreads the love. Just loving it. Okay, we have three people left. So now we're going to turn it over to Dylan Ward. It's your turn, my friend.
Okay. Well, first off, I am from the Miramichi area, so hearing what Jenny is doing is very great. I live in Fredericton now, but I grew up there, and I think that's so awesome that you are helping to create that space there. I think that's wonderful. So yes, I am from the Miramichi area, specifically Illground First Nation, which is a small reserve, like 10 minutes away from the Newcastle area. And my kind of journey starts where when I was younger, I got really into music. I learned guitar and I just enveloped in the whole thing and I loved it. I was playing in bands, I started writing my own music, writing music with friends. And I had a goal of making my own CD. I wanted that so bad. So I scrounged up some equipment and started recording my own songs and started recording my own bands. And then in high school, I started to record my friends' bands. And it was just an extension of my love for music. And I just wanted to learn everything about it. I wanted to learn how to write songs and play guitar better and sing. But I also wanted to know how records were made and how do I create the sound of the records that I love, which was my big goal. So when I graduated high school, I decided to go to a recording college here in Fredericton. It has since gone. It doesn't exist here anymore, but it was called the Center for Arts and Technology. It later changed to Da Vinci College, but unfortunately it just kind of shut down. So, but I took that program. I graduated, and then I began working at a bar here in town called the Cap. Now, it used to be called the Capitol Complex. And I was doing live sound there for a long time, and I still am, which is crazy. So I'm the head sound tech over there. And that was my job, just being involved in music. That's all I really wanted to do. It's all I really know. And then I just kept, I kept trying to make records. I would do it off and on whenever I could. I was living in small apartments. I didn't really have a space until eventually I came into this space. And this is the studio that I'm in right now. It is in downtown Fredericton. You might be able to hear some horns outside a little bit, maybe. So it's right downtown. It's across from City Hall. And when I moved in here, it was a space where there was a bunch of visual artists in here. And at one time there was like 6 or 7 different visual artists. I managed to get like a little space, and whenever everybody was gone at night, I would bring bands in and record. And I just kind of started really small from there until in 2019, late 2019, 2020, I went and enrolled in a little business course through JEDI, which is called the Joint Economic Development Initiative. But it's basically, it's an Indigenous-run organization that is there to put on programs and workshops and stuff to just encourage Indigenous entrepreneurs and to help them out in any way that they can. So I took their incubator program, which was an 11-week program. And I just learned so much from there, learned so much about business, about, just how to navigate that. And it just gave me so much confidence to really take it on. So at this time, I started to take over kind of more space in here. Right now, I share the space with one other person. So I've just been building it and building it. I later took another course from them, which was their art accelerator program, which I took last year, 2021. Again, just learning how to develop the business, and really create a vision for the studio. And through this program, I basically learned that New Brunswick as a province is so far behind in music industry infrastructure compared to even just the maritime provinces. Nova Scotia, in terms of federal grant money that artists receive over there, it's like 5 times as much as we get here. PEI is like 3 times as much as we get here. So there's money out there, but for some reason we're just not accessing it. And then I just learned that there's just not really a lot of recording studios or managers or, just people who kind of make the music industry a thing. So I got kind of passionate about that. And through the studio, I really want to do and am doing just some, trying to build up our New Brunswick artists. And also because I am Indigenous, I really want to build up Indigenous artists as well. But just because there's so much talent here, and I see it every day when I'm used to do live sound. I'd still do it, but when shows would happen, which has been kind of troublesome through the pandemic, but I would see all these bands come in, local bands play all around the province, play, and the talent here is just amazing. And I would also see touring acts from Ontario and Quebec, and there really wasn't much difference. It's not like we're less talented around here. It's just we don't have the people and specifically the infrastructure to build up what we have here. So I really want to encourage that. So I'm putting my love in my craft, where I'm trying to make the best sounding records for people who want to come in and record. And as well, once the pandemic kind of allows it, I'm a part of my business is to put on professional development and creative development workshops. So trying to give back to the community. I have this wonderful space here, and I want to share it with people. And I just all in the sight of just encouraging, building everybody up. Let's spread our knowledge. If we have somebody who's one of the best guitar players in Canada who lives in Fredericton, I'm sure there's a lot of guitar players who can learn a lot from them, or the best singers, or the best whatever, right? So, let's just help each other out, and I want this space to encourage that. So, yeah, I guess that's my 5 minutes.
Dylan, well, Alan, I tell you, there's a few quick things I want to mention from what I've just heard. So you mentioned Jedi. So just as an FYI, Stanley Barnaby is CEO of Jedi, is on our board of directors. So I'm just so thankful to hear that Jedi was helpful in your journey. So that's awesome. Second, I mentioned I lived in Miramichi. I heard of you when I was living there, and it was like this kid, from Eel Ground who's doing recording, and I remember there were articles in the Miramichi Leader about you. So this is just wonderful to now see you.
Wow, that's crazy. I love that.
Yeah. So this is awesome. So see how the world's all connected, and that demonstrates the growth too. And you've mentioned too, yes, this lack of infrastructure for music industry in New Brunswick. And again, so let's use this platform to call upon some of our politicians. So Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, keeps saying that that the province of New Brunswick is not requesting enough money from the federal. So there's these sums of money that we are not taking advantage of. So I'm using this platform to call out to Minister Dominique Leblanc that here's a need in New Brunswick. There's, right? Exactly. Let's talk to Dylan about his needs and amplify that. So anyways, hopefully they've been listening, Dylan. That's what I can do for you.
I love it. Every bit counts, eh?
Yes.
No, just to add on to that, you just nail everything in the land that we are facing in New Brunswick. It's like you are in your own little corner, you are seeing, you know what is wrong. This is it. This is it for real. We're going to be diving into the next series of questions, which will tap onto that. What are the barriers here? Thank you so much for sharing this. I took also a session with Jedi. It's amazing. And so it's like we're all connected here some way, somehow. You know, this is how it is. The energy, the good energy is bringing in. That's why I'm so much happy that when we celebrate Black History Month, it's not just for Black Africans. It's for everyone. It's for all of us. So the leadership, the partnership, the friends, the sisters, the brothers, you name them, the list goes on and on. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep fighting the barriers. We come together, talk about how can we move forward, who do we bring on board to make sure we meet our goals. That is what we do. That is what we would like to continue to do. You know, thanks to every organization who is with the New Brunswick African Association to support, make this cause move on. I know we all make mistakes, but when we make mistake, you see mistake, help to correct it. Let's move further. Let's heal. Let's work. Let's connect. Let's share. That's the only way we can win the battle. That's the only way, you know. And so the next question here, we're going to... Yes, one more, right?
We have two more. There's Joel and Precious. Yes,
that's sorry. Right. Yes, the beauty is still going on. The beauty is still going on.
Yeah, still going on. So Joel, floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you very much. Well, to speak to the Black Rose Nation Holistic Sunshine Management story, great segue from Sa. We're speaking to all hues, indigenous to this land, welcoming Black, African descent, African Nova Scotian, African Canadian, African American, people of mixed descent, Hispanic, Latino, those with knowledge of self, those without, with all languages and types, different class backgrounds with different class foregrounds, people with disabilities, whether you're visible or invisible, for the youth, for the teens, for the adults, for the ancestors newly born, the long-lived or the transition, for the general public, the government, the educational system, for the abandoned, adopted, fostered, orphaned, and forgotten. Our story is, we are them, and that drives our story. Now, how we embarked on this journey of our business ownership, for my seeds, my father always spoke of generational wealth, and generational wealth in terms of land. Being very fortunate where I'm positioned here in New Brunswick, is being on that land. So my queen, my earth, Tanya, she was always about her Kwanzaa, her Umoja, or Kujijagalia, Ujima, Ujama, her Nia, Hukumba, her Umani, her Nguzu Saba. She was always B1, always Black focused, always about self-determination. So when my father's generational wealth knowledge and my wife teamed up, you know, we get to the Black Rose Nation. And then 1 year, because in New Brunswick, everybody does side jobs. You have to have your side jobs. So I was doing the side jobs, you know, you do your side jobs, and eventually 1 year, we made too much money doing side jobs where the government told us you need to register as a business. So that's how we registered as a business. The baby steps of New Brunswick are working your way up, increment up and make a little more money till you get into a certain category. We were put in, and then once we were put in there, we used the foundation of studying, like the education we were talking a lot about. Starting a business journey, like everything, you should really start with vocabulary. So we tried to learn that vocabulary. That's our story. Thanks.
It is wonderful. And I hope that your wife partner, she's watching this or she's near, because I just, as a woman, I can so appreciate that you're giving and granting her credit where credit is due.
Tag team. But she's out with the 4 youngsters, so.
Yes. Wonderful. So did you want to add anything to Joe?
I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your voice. Every voice matters. Thank you for sharing this. Back to you, Nadine.
So our last one, certainly not the least, we are going to adapt our question for Precious, because actually her journey is more about guiding Indigenous entrepreneurs. So Precious, we know that we understand you play an active role, right, in supporting Indigenous entrepreneurs. Can you tell us how you came to play this role and why is it important to you?
Thank you so much. So it started basically when I was a kid in school. So I was born English and raised French. So I went to a French school, and going to the French school in Mi'kmaq and Legacyville, well, they were really understanding about the cultures because we had the reserve right beside it, and we had many Indigenous young children going to the French schools to get on to being bilingual, basically. And it started when I had to do projects. So I was inspired doing for the history projects, I would go with the Indigenous culture, go with people that I would praise about. And so I would always do things like that. And being in like Mi'kmaq, so I would always look forward to those kind of things. And then it started going into pageants. And then I'd have to choose a purpose or a cause that was to my heart. And I would always end up going towards Indigenous culture. And I would praise for the Black Lives Matter, for missing and murdered Indigenous women and children, clean water. I would talk about everything that is surrounding our culture and put that into the pageant so I would have a bigger voice. And that's how I found my purpose, being like a leader to push people to be more accepting about their culture. And it started in 2019. I was lucky enough to have a godchild, and her father started a clothing company called Lucrative Apparel in 2019. Yeah. And then, so yeah, I wanted to help my godchild have like a better childhood and grow up seeing her parents being successful, and so yeah, so indirectly I wanted to help out my godchild and her parents. So that's why I am like a business partner technically with Lucrative Apparel. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Precious. We've met, what, about a year and a half ago when we were doing the event at the Université de Moncton for the commémoration des femmes de Polytechnique, n'est-ce pas, le 6 décembre? Oui, puis ça m'avait vraiment marqué déjà, là, je te voyais comme une femme, une jeune femme autochtone qui fière de sa culture et qui prenait sa place. Donc, tellement fière de voir que tu accompagnes d'autres personnes dans leur parcours entrepreneurial. Bravo. Bravo.
Merci beaucoup.
I just want to say, Precious, thank you very much for sharing this. And sorry to cut you off, Nadine. What you just shared is amazing, and helping, like going the extra mile to help. And that is what we want to have many more people doing, right? The more we can get more people who care, that's what I see you, I hear you, I want to be by you, I want to help you elevate. That's amazing. Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. I don't know if Nadine want to say anything before we move on.
No, it's I've said everything. Thank you so much, everyone, for doing the intro, the context. So now over to you, Sa.
Thank you so much. And we know there is a lot of Indigenous and Black organizations, founders who are not here today on this panel because we can put everybody here. If you know them, you have their links, please include them here so people on the outside can share, can see, and can learn, because we want to know, we want to celebrate everything out there. It's owned by Black and Indigenous. That is what we are celebrating here today. So we know we can bring everybody, but we can make it happen because everybody here have their own network. So this question, the question I'm going to bring here is going to start actually with Precious again. I hope you take deep breath and come back again because you just finished talking about, you just finished answering the last question here. So I want you to start with this one and before we go to the rest of the panelists. What obstacle, you kind of touched about it, touched on it a little bit. What obstacles have you encountered that are unique to your experiences as Black and Indigenous founders, entrepreneurs? How do you overcome them? So this question, we will start with Precious.
Thank you. So my friend, well, the father of my godchild, he told me that he had issues growing his business into outside of the Native communities and with the Black and the Indigenous people. We didn't have much support from, basically. And we would try doing designs that was more simplified and not just, you know, Native designs on it, so everybody could wear it and everybody could support it. But he had a very hard time to reach out outside of the community. He would always be declined to, like, if he would ask if they would support and sell his clothing lines inside of their shops, he would always be declined, except for in Native communities or in cannabis shop. That actually he was very supportive in that. So he overcame it by coming to me, actually. And I'm raised French, so I can talk with French customers, and I'm Acadian, so I can be there for the Acadian people and try to encourage them to support the business. So I was there for that, and it really was amazing to see and to help out in this situation. And for me personally, like doing the history projects, obviously there'd be some racism because I would be nominated to go to the district because I would win like the local competition and head forward. And I would get some people come up to me and do racism like in front of me, and I'd have to just let them be, let them go. You know, they made their point, we acknowledge it, we don't have to agree with it, but we just let it slide, and you know, love always wins. So you just let them do that, and if they're still there, you get that chance to educate them. And once you educate them, then you hope that they'll take it in. But a lot of racist people are, you know, stubborn. So even if you just try a little bit and you tell them, you educate them, hopefully that they will one day understand. So even if right now you say something and you're like, dang it, like it didn't matter to them, well, eventually it will. Every time that they'll start going off again with people, like they'll be like, oh my God, yeah, I remember that time. Like, is she gonna be like that with me too? Or so they'll think about that situation that you put them through too. And that's why it's really important to always stand up, take action, and always talk about it. So that's what I've been trying to do, and encourage and supporting people to stand up and take action about these situations. So yeah.
And you are doing just fine. You did just
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you so much for doing. You stood up, you shared, and this is what we are fighting on: dismantling racism, making sure there's representation. What are we going to do? What do we need to do collectively? You know, the resources. I know the forefront of this is education. Education, education, education. You know, that is what we are not going to stop doing. But also we need to make sure there is representation there. We need to have Black and Indigenous leaders right where the power is made, the decision is made. So that way, the representation and the decision we're looking for, we are involved into it too. You know, you see racism is happening right in front of your face. How are you going to stop it? Because even though we do anything, our voice can go further. because the person in the top cannot change it. So if we are there, we can find a way to change it. Nadine, you want to add anything to that?
No, you said it all. I really admire also Precious for standing up, and that's, yes, it's all that you can do, and you keep going and you rise up, right? I like Michelle Obama, when they go low, you go high, and I find that that's what, yeah, exactly, Jill, right? We go high. So thank you. Keep it up. Keep it up.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you for
And-
sharing this.
Yeah, and just quickly, so I think I like how you've used your connection, right? Like your heritage to the Acadian and French culture to help. And you know, it's sad that that's a thing that we need to do. But thank you for that's allyship once again, you know. So thank you for doing that.
And don't stop. Let nothing stop you. Keep doing it. And so the same question here, we'll go to Brother Yusuf, the president of the New Brunswick African Association. Then we followed by Jenny, then Joel, then Dr. Mary Louise McCarthy. Then we'll close that question with Dylan. Okay, that's what we're doing here in Matthew. So I will read the question again. What obstacles have you encountered that are unique to your experience as Black and Indigenous founders, entrepreneurs? How do you overcome them? Brother Yusuf.
Thank you, sir. I'll start by saying newcomers require timely and accurate information, really, to make an informed decision and understanding how to navigate life in Canada. But unfortunately, a lot of newcomers are left alone without responsibility to find access to services. So this is where New Brunswick African Association, we come in, and myself and the executive team, with the help of other organizations like BOTA, Black Lives Matter, GNB, to really bring our issues to the forefront or go into the decision makers. As Nadine mentioned about Dune Street, this is something has been going on for almost like 20-something years. Our community that they're living in that zone, they've been facing challenges of bullying, racism, youth that they're living in that neighborhood, facing racism in their community or in their neighborhood and going to school and facing the same challenges. So for us, that made us realize that we cannot keep meeting up with the principal of the school or going to meet up with the building managers of those neighborhoods. We had to talk with the councillors. We had to talk with the decision makers. So we put proposal out there. We spoke with the media. The media went directly interview the community itself, and they saw what their challenges was and what they were facing. So for us, really, the obstacle is the way. Nothing should hold you back, is to always keep pushing. We're pushing the boundaries. We gotta be able to advocate for our community, their concerns, education. We're working with the Department of Education in Brunswick in trying to include the Black and African Indigenous education in the school curriculum, not just for Black History Month, but 365 days a year, by working with the city of Fredericton here in trying to create an anti-racism task force. So all these things we're doing because we see the rise of like anti-racism, anti-Black racism, anti-Asian racism. And we wanted to be able to eradicate that as a community. We cannot be able to do this by ourselves, but to working with other allies community and other founders that they really, they have the same vision as we do. And really, for me as well, the challenges that we faced, going to talk with the decision makers or the politicians, we all know they will promise one thing and then, we will be waiting for a year to 18 months and nothing comes out of it. So it's a challenge, but we cannot, it shouldn't stop us. This is a great group of leaders that are here today. And, we're all doing a job that we can to help our communities really get the information that they need and reaching out to the youth, the next generation, to be able to set the platform set up the blueprint for them, really, not to face the same challenges that we're facing today. That way they can be able to take this thing further. They can be able to be more confident. They can take these spaces out there. Representation, right now we're lacking representation. We don't have no Black educators. We don't have a lot of Black doctors in the community in New Brunswick. So all these things, we want to be able to champion for it, and us going forward, putting ourselves in this position. So the next generation, they'll have this confidence, not waiting for somebody doing for them, but them doing for themselves. And this is what I believe in doing for we, coming together and doing something that's really best for our community. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. That is well said. So as you are saying, you're talking about this, there is a lack of funding opportunities. So Black and Indigenous led organizations. Most of this funding is going to the same people that this high power already know. Whether they're doing the work, whether they're not doing, they still give them money. They still give them money. They don't even asking. I think the question we need to be asking is the people who are up there who are releasing this money. You're giving this huge amount of money to organizations that you already know so many long time. You're not even checking what is happening, how they're using it. But you left the small Black and Indigenous and different groups. You don't fund them because you just don't care. You don't want to deal with that dirty thing. Let me look at this big organization that I already know. Here is the money. Do anything you want to do. That is what is happening. Look at if Dylan have his own studio, he has this musical thing, he know what exactly is missing here, but how can we make it? The funding is there, but we're not getting it. Guess what? They go give it to a big name music group, something you don't even know, and they're not actually meeting the goals for the province, right? Now, all these small organizations we have, this is not to bash any organization, but this is the truth, is the reality. This is the same thing I said in the face of the premier the last time. You have all of the power. Now that these small organizations are there who are actually doing the work, who are actually going down. Thank you again to Dr. McCarthy for starting Reach, looking after those graveyards which are missing, which people don't even know about. We want to learn about the first Black people who were here. I want to know. We want to know. We want to know about those missing indigenous children. We want more resources to put into those things. We want those things to happen. This is not a secret. We better start saying it. We better start putting it out there, put it in their faces. How can we deal with this together? How can we deal with this together? Nadine, you want to add on to that?
Ouais, je vais le dire en français parce que je vais utiliser la plateforme que j'ai en ce moment, OK? Parce que je vais dire exactement la même chose que tu es en train de dire, ça. Surtout en ce qui concerne le financement pour les activités du mois du patrimoine africain. Donc, à tous les organismes qui vont chercher du financement, qui n'ont même pas de représentation sur leur conseil d'administration, ils ne sont même pas gérés ou dirigés par des Noirs. Arrêtez, s'il vous plaît, d'aller chercher le financement et allez plutôt le donner aux organismes qui le font sur le terrain, comme mon ami Ça l'a dit. Ça, c'est quelque chose qui me chavire, OK? So it's a great word, Ça, for you to learn. Chavirer means it drives me insane, okay? That this funding is not going to, as you said, to Black-led organizations. So I've said my message, but yes, it needs to stop.
Thank you. So the same question to Brother Yusuf going to Jenny, Sister Jenny.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Je vais parler plus parce qu'on habite une petite communauté qui est de Miramichi. Je vais parler des obstacles qui sont liés à la communauté. En tant que Noir, quand on se retrouve dans ces petites communautés-là, le monde ne connaît pas, n'est pas vraiment informé, éduqué. D'abord, on va te dire que, alors tu viens de ton pays, l'Afrique. L'Afrique n'est pas un pays. L'Afrique, c'est un continent de 54 pays. Donc, ça, on peut dire c'est simple, ils ne connaissent pas, oui. Mais le problème, c'est que dans leur tête, quand ils ont rencontré quelqu'un qui est noir, qui a dit qu'il vient de l'Afrique, ils ont retenu Afrique. Et s'ils ont eu une mauvaise expérience, ils vont généraliser. S'ils ont rencontré quelqu'un qui vient du Côte d'Ivoire, qui n'a pas bien travaillé ou qui agissait de façon bizarre ou qui se comportait de façon bizarre, ils vont le généraliser. Ils vont dire, OK, Lui, il est comme l'Ivoirien que j'ai vu. La Côte d'Ivoire est dans l'Ouest. Les gens de l'Ouest n'ont pas les mêmes cultures que ceux de l'Est. Ils ne sont pas les mêmes cultures que l'Afrique du Nord, loin de là des Caraïbes. Donc, ça, c'est un obstacle qu'on observe. Les gens marchent avec des préjugés. Cela leur empêche de s'intégrer d'abord parce que avant même que tu parles, que tu fasses quoi que ce soit, on t'a déjà mis une étiquette. Tu es comme ça, tu agis comme ça, tu te comportes comme ça. Tu n'as même pas la chance de prouver qui tu es. Donc, comme Abigail a dit, c'est une formation, c'est quelque chose qu'on doit rappeler aux gens de dire, moi, je ne viens pas de l'Afrique, je viens de tel pays, il est là. Est-ce que si je vous dis que vous êtes comme un Mexicain, ça ne va pas vous toucher? Vous n'êtes pas mexicain, peut-être vous n'avez jamais été en Mexique, vous ne savez même pas qu'est-ce qu'ils mangent, comment ils parlent. On a des langues différentes, on est très différents. Donc, c'est vrai qu'on est minoritaire, mais je trouve que c'est un obstacle qui nous empêche de vivre comme les autres, de s'épanouir, de se développer, parce que justement, on nous met dans un même sac, on est noir, on vient de l'Afrique, on vient des Caraïbes, mais on n'est pas les mêmes. Chacun devait avoir sa chance. Même si vous avez eu une mauvaise expérience avec quelqu'un qui est de peau noire, il faut que le monde sache que tout le monde n'est pas pareil. Chacun est identique. Donc, il est unique. Si j'ai rencontré Nadine, qu'elle est acadienne, je ne vais pas mettre tous les Acadiens dans le même sac et dire, OK, les Acadiens sont comme ça. Donc, chacun a sa chance de se prouver et de prouver qui il est. Et juger quelqu'un par ses actes et non pas vraiment des préjugés et des stéréotypes, c'est ça que je voulais dire comme obstacle. Et dans la petite communauté, c'est très, très grave parce que c'est de bouche à oreille. Oui, j'ai engagé un immigrant, il venait de l'Algérie. Oh, les Algériens, ils ne travaillent pas. Je préfère les tels gens qui viennent. Non, mais c'est pas tous les Algériens. Peut-être tu es tombé sur quelqu'un qui ne voulait pas travailler. Donc, ça nous touche et ça nous met des barrières dans notre vie quotidienne, que ce soit sociale, professionnelle, partout. Deuxième chose que je trouve qui est un obstacle lié aux gens de peau noire, c'est la formation des nouveaux arrivants. On manque une formation pour les nouveaux arrivants. Si on regarde même les programmes de l'immigration, on fait des programmes pour les employeurs, pour leur apprendre comment vivre avec la diversité, comment gérer les gens de la diversité, mais on ne fait rien pour quelqu'un qui arrive, qui vient du Ghana, qui vient, je ne sais pas, de quelle île du Caraïbe, qui n'a jamais été dans l'Amérique, qui ne sait rien, la première fois qu'il vient, qui quitte son pays, on ne lui donne aucune formation pour lui dire ici, c'est au Nouveau-Brunswick, ou à Miramichi, on a autant de communautés, telles comme des essors comme ça, voici l'histoire, voilà, c'est comment se comportent les gens, voici comment... Ne fût-ce que même saluer, on sait qu'il y a des gens qui, quand ils se saluent, ils se touchent sur le cœur. Si on t'a jamais dit ça, tu vas le faire. Tu penses que tu as salué quelqu'un ou tu donnes la main parce qu'en Afrique, on donne plus la main que juste ne rien faire. Donc, toutes ces petites choses-là, il n'y a pas cette formation-là et ça manque au Nouveau-Brunswick partout. Moi, quand je suis arrivée au Canada, j'étais un candidat du Québec et à l'aéroport, on nous donnait des dépliants pour nous dire la première chose à faire, va voir cet organisme-là, on va te donner une formation d'intégration. Et tu faisais une formation d'une semaine. On t'apprenait c'est quoi le Québec, c'est quoi les Québécois, c'est quoi les coutumes, comment tu vas travailler, comment tu vas te comporter. Et ça t'aide. Mais il n'y a pas cette formation-là. On fait trop d'efforts. Je dirais qu'on est même génie, qu'on arrive à s'intégrer sans que personne ne prenne la main, ne nous dise comment vivre dans ce monde. Donc, ça, c'est un obstacle que j'essaie de dire partout où je vais et qu'on essaie de voir s'il y a des solutions, que cette formation-là soit obligatoire, que les gens qui arrivent au Nouveau-Brunswick, quand ils arrivent à l'aéroport, qu'on leur dise, ou les associations multiculturelles, ou les associations des nouveaux arrivants fassent cette formation gratuitement. Parce que c'est pour la société, c'est aussi pour le développement, parce que les conséquences, ça tombe sur la société. Si tu engages quelqu'un, tu ne l'as jamais appris comment parler à ses collègues, comment se comporter, ça tombe sur toi parce que ça va toucher les collègues, ça va toucher tout le monde. Donc, je dirais plus les deux choses. Il y en a beaucoup, il y a le racisme, il y a toutes ces choses et je suis sûre qu'on en a parlé, mais c'est plus ces deux choses, moi, qui me touchent, que je trouve que c'est des obstacles qu'on devait voir de près et essayer de trouver des solutions pour les Noirs et pour les nouveaux arrivants. Merci.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you so much. And you just said everything. And that's why we said it's good to give funding to these Black and Indigenous-led organizations who have already been here. They know their people, they know what is happening, so they could help to when newcomers come, when somebody come from Africa, we have a Black center that's helped those people and say, well, this is how you live here. This is how things go here. This is not going to be able to done by all the big centers. I need to be able to get the opportunity to talk to my own brothers and sisters how I felt when I come here. This is what he needs to do. These are the steps. So that way we can go to the other big organizations and just keep planning. That's all. The more we get support, the more we can also help those big organizations do a good job and make a better New Brunswick. Most of our people are living in New Brunswick. They're going out west because they just feel, no, I'm not getting the support I need here. So you just nailed it very well. So before we go to Joel, maybe Nadine, you want to comment? Then also there is somebody who in the question and answer here, somebody made a comment. Maybe we can throw this comment to the panelists if they want to answer it. Nadine, you want to add anything onto what Jenny just said?
No, I'm going to go into a rant and I'm trying to get into a very nice spirit this afternoon with the love, but I've made my message before that I echo everything that you say, that more organizations and this government, and maybe this is a recommendation we can put out, since this is this is our dialogue, and we are going to write the public report. So I hope that the team, you listen to this recommendation that we're going to put out to the New Brunswick Commissioner of Systemic Racism, that there is funding allocated to Black and Indigenous led organizations. That should be one of the recommendations.
That's right. And now this is going to all the panelists. After this question, then Joel, you will take it on, okay? Anybody can answer this as you wish, okay? Amin, this person name, this our guest here name is Amin. Amin said, how do you say this here? How to sensibilize New Brunswickers to develop their intercultural intelligence.
Yeah, how to raise awareness, how to, yeah.
This one to any one of the panelists can answer.
Well, I think,
go ahead.
Shay, I'll jump in. I think one thing that we can do is, speaking a lot about what's been said here already. I had a little note to mention the Precious, and she was mentioning it, but our net worth is our network. So as we increase our network of people, and the people around us seeing us all working together, me going to your organization, you going to my store, me going to your organizations, and they see the cohesiveness of what we're doing within our network, that will just radiate off and become part of it. There's other ways to do it as well, but I want to speak from the sense of, we increase our network and our net worth, and those are residual effects that come from that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Janine?
Excuse-moi, je n'étais pas préparée. Je pense que ça va être Abigail, je pense que vous voulez parler aussi.
Yeah, Abigail, I thought you wanted to comment on this comment. Anybody else?
So yeah, actually this year will mark our 3rd year with Lucrative Apparel for our Social Justice and Leadership Award for African Canadian and Indigenous graduates at North Nova Educational Center. Sorry, that was a mouthful. I had to look at my notes. But yeah, so we have been doing this fundraiser with hoodies every year, and we would sell these hoodies and try to make our voices heard through these hoodies, you know. And this year we want our goal to be $6,000 to fundraise for, so we could have 4 students to move into their educational or training opportunities by giving out $1,500 to 2 African Canadians and 2 Indigenous students if our goal is reached. And in the last 2 years, we've raised almost $8,000, impacting 7 graduates. And Lucrative Apparel, we think that it's really important to give back to the community, to shine light on these students that are going through things and that want to make a difference. So that's how we choose our recipients. And yeah, we like to spread love and hope to our youth.
Well said, well done. Everybody, let's give a clap to Precious. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we're going to dive into Joel now to respond to that question so that we can keep on time and everybody have opportunity to share. And don't forget to also continue to share those organizations, founders, businesses that are not here today that you want us to know about. Share it on the chat box, and Terry can share them too so that many people can reach them. Okay, we want to make sure the love is shared. Let's spread the love. Let's spread the love throughout. And now, Joel, this question, the same question, go back to you again. What obstacle have you encountered that are unique to your experiences as Black and Indigenous founders, entrepreneurs? How do you overcome them? For you, Joel.
Absolutely. So similar to what I just echoed is your network. Knowing what the network is in New Brunswick so we can increase our net worth. That seems to be an obstacle which we seem to be overcoming greatly. I mean, the COVID renaissance has brought us together. But just to give props to Brother Matthew, when he spoke at the beginning about coming up and what it's like trying to figure out self and then the network of it. I commend you for speaking so boldly, Brother Man. But the obstacles that do come in is that network and net worth and how you feel looking for that. And if you feel alone. Jenny was speaking a little bit to this earlier, and something we can do to increase our network and net worth, which is very strong and simple, is the nod. You know, the nod. When you're in stores, walking down the street, that nod is so important. When I grew up and I am growing up in New Brunswick, when you get the nod, it is very empowering. It starts conversation. It makes you want to engage. So pay attention to the strength of the nod when you see people. Another huge obstacle is when you're one of only and it's only a few, is you're always voluntold to do stuff. You're always put on the pedestal. There's always all eyes on you. You feel outnumbered and outgunned a lot, and you're always being critiqued. That's a huge obstacle because we usually can fall into being like a Step and Fetch It or a Chuck D. You know, for a large part of my life, probably was speaking more to the Step and Fetch It because being put on that pedestal, you want to respond a certain way in these obstacles. Now, Chuck D. So the obstacles of being put in the forefront and being voluntold and expected to have answers and stuff is a real thing that because we want to have answers. And when people ask you questions, you want to give an answer. And maybe it's not the full 360-degree understanding of the culture, but we have a desire to respond. So as we increase our network and we learn from each other, how we respond will we'll feel stronger in doing that and give us the strength going forward. My father always used to say, it's easy to lose a good name and hard to get a good name back. So how we respond can really affect how our name, our company name, our family name, our community name is affected. So I'm going hard for self-administered reparations. When we seek to be strong, to understand in the face of obstacles, how we are representative a lot of times of more than just us. We're giving our whole culture self-administered reparations by being strong and standing on what we are, with having a knowledge of self, which is an obstacle because growing up here, it's hard to find the knowledge of who you are, who we are. What is our knowledge of self? What is self? What is our culture? What is our diet, our dress? What is our dance? What are our principles and values? What are our family dynamics? Those are different amongst nations, amongst groups, amongst people, and amongst tribes. So Joe Fresh is not my culture. I mean, probably wearing a lot of Joe Fresh, but you know what I'm saying? So there's things which define us, which adds to the knowledge itself. Without having that is an obstacle. Now, how we overcome these obstacles of being put on the stage, maybe being one to speak for everybody, or being expected to speak for everybody, is to think about how this affects we. Brother Yusuf, you were saying this, there's a we sense. So either we can win as entrepreneurs in business and groups, or I can win. And how I win could be different than we. The we needs to be looked at. We need to have a desire for civilization. That greatly overcomes it. We need to have a desire for freedom, justice, and equality. We need to feel the need to know our origins in this world. We need to feel the need to know what it is we worship and to not be led in the wrong direction. We as a group need to want to provide infinite possibilities and cherished dreams to the next generations. If this is part of our mission and our goal as organizations, then that is building the culture, it is removing the obstacles, it is giving the strength and the knowledge itself, which helps build our culture. So those obstacles are culture, diet, health, wellness, physical training, proper mind and body and spirit. It's a holistic package, and holistically, that means everything outside the nucleus and the whole cell is growing. New Brunswick, Canada, the world, the universe, whether you're going to Elon Musk to Mars, yeah. Holistic science, technology, engineering, and math is how we overcome.
Thank you. Well said. You just nailed it right now. I'm lost of words. I'm lost of words, brother. Amazing. This is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this, Joel. Thank you. I believe in network, building network. Surround yourself with good people, people who can amplify you, people who can lift you up. You know, this is amazing. So much. Nadine, you have any comment to that?
I'm at loss, except Joel for mayor or Joel for something. You're amazing. You've been inspiring me all day. So I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much. So now we're taking it to Dr. Mary Louise McCarthy Brandt. The floor is yours.
First of all, I'm in awe of Joel. I have heard about Joel, and this is my second time on a panel with Joel, and I'm just so honored, and he speaks so much of my experiences. I see someone shared a link to my son's book in the chat, but I grew up in Woodstock, and we were one of maybe 3 or 4 families. We were all connected like cousins and related, and multiple levels of racism. I wrote about in another book how my brother across the border in Maine was savagely beat such that he now walks with a limp at a racist incident in a bar in Holton, Maine. He will never cross the border again. I remember he was about 16, 17. I was 1 year younger. I remember the police coming to the door and patronizing and speaking down to my parents and saying, this is nothing you can do. Do you have money for a lawyer? Where are you going with this? Anyway, long story short, a few weeks later, a police officer from Maine came and said, we just want you to know that the bartender is not going to press any charges on your son. And I'm thinking, my brother was savagely beat. He was lured outside and 3 men beat him with their steel-toe boots. And they're not charging my brother? Anyway, I wrote about it in a book. I can put it in the chat. But all of this is kind of bubbling in me. So I started, as I said, I love this these words that Nadine and Sa are using, that we're going to amplify our voices as a collective, and we're going to dismantle the racist structures as a collective. I believe in, because I grew up in a very large family and I was very petite, I was surrounded by, my mother was one of 13. I was one of 9. So I always had my aunts and uncles around. So I learned to listen to the elders' voices. And I now believe that it is my elders and ancestors that help me walk this walk I'm doing. I take my husband says, oh my God, you speak like, smooth FM when you're being interviewed. And I go, honey, that's my gifts. That's my gifts. I have written a poem actually about my gifts and my fists. and they're all invisible, but it's the strength that I have to move forward and do this anti-racism, anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous, pro-Indigenous work. So I will say that I did not have a lot of negative conflict when I was thinking about starting my nonprofit. I've been involved with other nonprofits, like Matthew probably knows me from New Brunswick Black History Society. I was the first a Black female president, but I'm now, I think, on the board, but I've stepped away from that because I had to finish my PhD and all of that. And in my paid employment, I worked as an employment counselor for the province. And my biggest joy was assisting new Canadians on their journey. I refuse to use newcomers. That is an institutional, bureaucratic piece of poop. I choose, and that's just me, to say these are new Canadians, and I am so grateful and humbled to help them walk their way into becoming sure-footed New Brunswickers. My last thing is that I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I still go back to saying that I am an educator, and I will use my voice and my gifts from my ancestors to highlight this wonderful, beautiful Black community, whether we're from the continent or we're of African descent. I will use my voice. And Joel, I'm coming to St. John and we're having a coffee. Yes. Thank you so much for giving me this platform.
This is amazing. This is your platform. This is what we do throughout this month and beyond. 365 days. We want to keep amplifying, sharing, dismantling, make sure representation happen. We're going to keep singing this until we achieve our goal. We're not going to stop. Nobody going to dull our vibes. Nobody. For real. Brother Matthew, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I think I'm going to kind of repeat kind of, Andrew, something you discussed and Jenny mentioned, and kind of around funding. And I think that's the biggest thing in New Brunswick is we have so many great established and new Black organizations and Indigenous-led organizations coming to the table with new, fresh ideas, approaching racism and systemic racism from such a I want to say a scientific angle, and ways to dismantle it in different approaches than what's been done for the decades. And I want to be clear with what I say is I have full respect for all our nonprofits who have been working, tirelessly at dismantling racism and systemic racism. But it comes back to this issue with funding is where we have Black-led organizations and let's be honest, the current trend in funding federally, provincially is towards Black and Indigenous communities. And we see these nonprofits that are heavily white on their boards, in their staff, following the money, and taking the opportunities away from Black-led organizations like the African Association REACH, Black Lives Matter, the Nigerian Association. There are so many Black organizations and Indigenous organizations out there who are really in the trenches meeting with the people to dismantle systemic racism and Black racism. And but we continue to see that funding go into organizations that are just chasing the money. And I think, Andrew, you said it is, there's no one checking in to see how they're doing it, how they're doing, how their programs are doing. They just send them the funding, they compile their report at the end of the day, but there's no real accountability to it. And Andrew, when you were talking, I had to turn my camera off because that's something that, is an obstacle we've seen. And it doesn't just stop there at the nonprofit sectors. When you switch to the business sector, we consistently hear from Black businesses, whether they're up and coming, struggling from the COVID pandemic, that there's just no funding to help them get through. And, we see the BS from our governments where they have these, COVID plans for businesses, but the reality of it is the credentials you need to attain this funding is, a systemic barrier within its own. And most small Black businesses aren't in the capacity to even get the funding to get them through the COVID pandemic. We've seen the $200 million I believe, for Black businesses put out by our federal government, but the credentials you have to meet that pretty much puts every Black business out and not able to get it, or the application forms to get it are just so high level. Like Joel said, is that vocabulary. Most of them don't know, that federal level, provincial level funding vocabulary. So to fill out these applications, it already puts us at a disadvantage. And I think that's our biggest thing, is we're keeping Black organizations out from helping our Black community, because bigger, well-known organizations are taking the funding away, taking their same material, reproducing just putting a new coat of paint on it and calling it something new. And I think it's something, gosh, I get very worked up about, because it takes away from organizations like the African Association, the Nigerian Association, the Atlantic Equity Research Alliance. It takes away from these organizations that are out there trying to better their communities, and instead it's going to these other organizations that really are just following the funding to keep their organizations alive. Again, there's no disrespect to those organizations, but I think we've seen the time now where younger generations are becoming more active in their community, but those tools and resources are being held by other individuals, so they can't get involved. They can't, actively focus on changing their communities. Dylan mentioned with the music sector. For myself, I grew up, which a lot of people know me for, previous to Black Lives Matter, was I was a Black country musician, and a lot of people look at me and went, "Shouldn't you be rapping?" And it's like, well, actually, if you want to look at it historically, country music was Black music. But growing up here in New Brunswick, trying to pursue funding to be a Black country musician was next to impossible. So there's just no supports to push forward our Black youth, our Black organizations, and we continue to just throw money out the window. Let's call it what it is. We're throwing money out of the windows, and I think our governments, both federally and provincially, need to really start having a look at where they're putting this money in, of organizations who are just reproducing the same results but not really getting anywheres, and start looking at organizations who have no funding, who are doing something, and say, well, heck, if we throw a little funding their way, imagine what they could do if they could really focus on it. So that's my rant. My apologies.
No, you don't apologize. Be on. You just nailed everything. You talk about the music. I don't know what to say. I learned this before even I come to St. Thomas University, that the rock hats, those big hats, those rock musicians wear. This is what our Black brothers and sisters during slavery days, they were wearing when they were walking under the sun. They wear hats. Now they use it as a country musician, the biggest country musicians. That's what they wear for fashion. But our people, we are wearing it to cover themselves from the sun while they were working in plantations for white folks. Now it's a style, it's a trend. Become a rock musician's thing they wear on their head. Trust me, that's Black roots. And let's keep amplifying. I saw a lot of people sharing a lot of links here. This is amazing. This is what we want. Let's keep talking. Don't be afraid to talk. We're not talking to hurt no one. We're talking to create the change that we want to see. Nadine, do you want to add anything here?
You're only speaking the truth.
That is it.
That is it.
Thank you. C'est ça. And so we're going to go now to Brother Dylan.
Awesome. I know we don't have much time, so I'll try to keep this quick, but I've just been writing down some words, and I'm getting some themes here. And, we're talking a lot about, as individuals and just feeling supported, putting funding towards spaces that really support anybody, of minority people, and giving confidence to those people to do the things that they want to do, and feel like they're a part of something. So I'm going to kind of switch the question, and I'm going to talk about a success, and I want to talk about JEDI because JEDI, I think, is a really good kind of shining example of this. So JEDI is an Indigenous-run organization for Indigenous people, and they're there to. What I did was they were there to just help out Indigenous entrepreneurs. They have different tiers, like I said, the incubator and the accelerator. The incubator being like your first step, just learning about your business or your business idea, developing that business idea, seeing how it is it feasible, all this other stuff. And as I was starting my studio, I never saw myself going into any kind of business program or anything like that. It wasn't until a fellow Indigenous person who actually went through the JEDI program, who then worked for JEDI, approached me, a friend of mine, and said, "Hey, you have your studio. You should really go into this program. I think you will get a lot out of it." So I kind of thought about it, and then I was encouraged by my partner to do it. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll go take a course, like a little workshop. And it was wonderful. It was a workshop with all Indigenous people. It happened. I went to the one in St. John, but there was one in Fredericton. And I just got to be in a room with Indigenous people, and had people from JEDI who were also Indigenous, who worked for JEDI, that were there as well, and answered all of our questions and like really encouraged us. And then, I applied, and then in my program, it's all Indigenous people, and it was wonderful. And just talking about, having that network and we're all together, it really was just wonderful to feel that support and feel a sense of being in a community. And I don't live on reserve anymore, so it was great to feel that community again with those people and having that space to collectively learn something that we all want to achieve. And so I think, to bring it back, that the obstacle is I think it's just knowing that you can go for the things that you want, and having a support system that you trust to help you achieve the things that you want to do. So I think that's a big obstacle. And if it wasn't for JEDI, I would, I'd still be doing this, but I certainly would be a lot less further than I am now, and I wouldn't be speaking here today at all. So yeah, I think that's it.
Well said, brother. Well said. Amazing. I took a session with JEDI. I said it was powerful. It was really powerful. Thank you very much, Dylan, for sharing here. And it means that, especially when you have the opportunity that your own community is helping you, guiding you through that journey, you feel so empowered. You feel so, this is my space. This is my space. I can learn here. I can go share to the world. Thank you for doing this. Nadine, you have any suggestion? Addition?
No, really, I think all has been well said and captured.
Thank you. And I'll pass it to you now.
Okay, so in the spirit of time, I'm going to ask that these answers, we keep them really quick. So just we capture some last thoughts, and perhaps we can capture some questions. Andrew, if you don't mind keeping an eye on the questions from panelists, and we'll take an answer, then go take a question. Do this very interactively. So very quickly, so, we've talked about your journeys, we've talked about your lived experiences, we've already addressed the obstacles you've faced. So what are the changes? What are some of the things you'd like to share that you haven't had a chance to say to date? But, what are some of the, to remove the systemic barriers? What is it that you want this platform, the world, to know that we need to do? And especially with regards to the pathway of Black, Indigenous, and racialized entrepreneurs. Did my question make any sense? I kind of merged the last two questions in one there. So perhaps Jenny, quick minute in your answer.
Yeah, je vais essayer
Oui.
de répondre rapidement. Je pense que on a besoin de plus d'implication des institutions parce que le changement va venir plus d'euros que de, de nous tous, de nos organisations. On a besoin de l'implication des institutions provinciales, municipales, locaux. On a besoin de cette voix qui parle pour nous, pour les Noirs et pour les Premières Nations. Que surtout ce qu'ils disent, ils le pratiquent parce que, comme on l'a dit tout le long, on voit pas de Noirs, on voit pas de personnes de Première Nation dans des institutions ou dans différentes catégories de professions. Pourquoi est-ce que des gens ne sont pas compétents? Je pense pas. Donc, il faut qu'ils pratiquent parce que c'est le seul moyen de pouvoir lutter contre ces discriminations systématiques. Il faut qu'on soit présent, il faut qu'on soit visible. Et comme je disais tantôt, il faut qu'on soit là pour prouver que qu'est-ce que le monde pense, qu'est-ce que le monde a dans leur tête ou qu'ils ont entendu dire, c'est pas vrai. Souvent, on a besoin de voir pour dire, OK, non, je m'étais fait une mauvaise idée, ils ne sont pas comme ça ou c'est pas des personnes qui ne sont pas intelligents ou qui sont comme ça, je ne sais pas toutes les étiquettes qu'on nous donne. Et pour aller plus vite, de notre côté, en tant que Noirs, en tant que Première Nation, je trouve qu'on a besoin d'être fiers de ce qu'on est et de le proclamer haut et fort. Les gens ici ne savent pas si, pour décrire quelqu'un qui a la peau noire, de dire noir, est-ce que c'est bon ou c'est pas bon, est-ce que c'est mauvais? Et chaque fois, je leur dis, oui, je suis noire, je suis fière de ma peau. J'ai pas de problème à dire que je suis noire. J'apprends chaque 15 août la fierté des Acadiens et ça m'inspire. Et je me dis, si on avait cette fierté-là en tant que Noirs au niveau de la province, que le mois de l'histoire, on brille et on montre qui on est et on montre qu'on est fier de ce qu'on est. On n'a pas besoin de changer quoi que ce soit. On est complet comme on est et on est capable. Donc, c'est vraiment les deux cris du côté des institutions et de nos communautés de faire nos devoirs, je dirais. Merci beaucoup.
Super, Jenny. Merci. Dylan. Oh, you're drinking water. Sorry, I just caught you as you're having a quick sip. Very quickly. What are some of the changes you wish to see?
Yeah, I think I would just love to see more more infrastructure, like more organizations led by Indigenous people, led by Black people to be more in the forefront, that just more of them led by those people, for those people, as well as as a general kind of outreach. I want to see more inclusion in the wider societal projects and programs. I get very annoyed when I see, 1 year when some big event is going on, like Canada 150, it was like all this extra money to put on all these other events. And then it's like, oh, we have all this extra money. Let's invite this organization now, and let's get these people in now. And it's like, let's bring this all in. And it's like, well, we're not just here for Canada 150. We're here all the time. So it's like, when you get that, I don't want it to be for us as minorities to be included when there's only there's new money, like put us in the regular money, and whatever programs that you really good programs that happen, like keep them going. There's a lot of we did this one thing and it was really great. I've been involved in some really cool projects that was just to showcase Indigenous artists and talent. And 1 year it was there, and then the next year it was gone. It's like, if you want to include and be inclusive, you got to keep going, and you got to make it a part of your every day, of your every year, of your every event. and just have that inclusion. And if we keep that momentum, it will continue to grow and people will feel confident and knowing that they're feeling a part of something and that we are included and we are noticed. Yeah, I guess that's just one thing. I'll keep it to that.
Thank you so much, Dylan. I'm so sorry I'm going fast to capture everyone. Joel, what changes do you want to see, friend?
Diving right in, I got a whole bunch of, I got point forms, something to dive into later. So what we need to do is really understand what UNDRIP is. United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People. Black is indigenous to Earth. UNDRIP, we need to understand UNDRIP, its legal implications. We need to understand what is a body politic. A body politic, we need to understand what that is. We need to highlight where money and stuff comes from. Search the Black Business Initiative, search FACE, search your local museum, go to your local museum, ask them at the front desk. They all look for money and access money and they're interested in research. Museums, go to your local historic society. Your local historic society have people who write programs, know how to access money. We're talking about history. Go to your local community loan fund, one in St. John, Seth Atmascus, Community Loan Fund. Go there and talk to the Human Development Council. These are things which will help us overcome these things and resource to access. Other things to get onto are books and people like Powernomics, Brother Boyce Watkins, Elijah Muhammad, Arna, Chief Namataga Shi Ali, Brother Polite, KT to the Arch degree, do some studying on Saw Netter and Black News 102, Amos Wilson, find that, Francis Cress Welsing, Professor James Smalls. All those points, dive deep.
Wow. Okay. I know the team is going to capture all of those resources, Joel, and they will be part of the report. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome. Precious, quickly, les changements.
This is something that is really diverse, and there's always changes that are welcomed. And for me, it's more about educating people and giving out that information, maybe making more like not just discussions, like this is really good, but to make a bigger network for the people so we can all have a place to give out our information. And this is such a great start, and I'm really enjoying this panel, and it's really awesome to see. So I'm really enjoying this.
Super. Merci, Precious. Yusuf.
Thank you, Joel, for all that. Thank you, Nadine. I think for me, it will be representation to all these places, decision making. We need to be able to be in those tables. We need to be part of the decision making. Anything that has to be done for us has to be done by us. So for me, really, that's what we should be looking into. And what Abigail just mentioned right now, education. It should be our role. We should be playing a role in educating and reversing the brainwashing. What Janae was been saying. People from West Africa and East Africa are totally different, but what we want people, we're Africans. But at the same time, the media, social media, we talked about it in our previous Pan-African session. We mentioned about the Western media, how they portray the African continent, all the Black people itself, in the music, in the sports. So we need to be able to have a centered news outlet or something that we can be able to be speaking to, and not sharing our narrative, and not be able to cut and paste, or people be able to, there has been propaganda about Black people for so long since slavery, and we need to be able to educate people. Our history did not start from slavery. We were civilized people before even slavery. So for me, really, it's about, and in addition to all the things that my colleagues here mentioned, it's about funding. We need to be able to give the Black organization these fundings. People are taking, white-led organization taking anti-racism or Black History Month funding to go and do what when your whole body is white? So we need to be able to, the decision makers have to go back and look into the way they're giving the funds. It has been a long time. We lived in New Brunswick here. We know there is cliques in all this. People have went to school together. People have married, intermarriage. So they're working in these big offices. When the funds come, they're already mentioning to that organization, you guys should be applying for the funding. So grassroots organization like New Brunswick African Association, the Nigerian Association, BOTA and B, this is a volunteer work. We don't have fundings that we can be able to pay our volunteers. So we just work tirelessly because of the love of our community and the love of our people that we're doing this work with no funding. So as Matthew mentioned, imagine what we can do if we're getting these fundings that everybody, all these other non-for-profit organizations are getting while they're established. And they are settlement agency. They're getting funding from IRCC. They're getting funding from immigration. So it will be really, we can do a lot of big things, having centers, Ubuntu Center or Uhuru centers, where we can teach our youth our history, not just about slavery. Every time they go to school or the presentation being given in school, it's all about slavery. It's all about, things that their ancestors went through to be here today. So we want to be able to change that. If you came from a line of king and queens, you're not going to be able to keep your head down and just tolerate racism. So this is the empowerment that we want to be able to show in our community going forward. And it's not just for Black History Month, but 365 days a year. Thank you very much for this wonderful day.
Indeed, Yusuf. Very well said. Matthew, floor is yours.
I'll be quick. So I'm going to agree with everything that everybody has said thus far. But I think in addition, we need a public inquiry into systemic racism in New Brunswick. And I won't go in depth, but there is a very big difference between having a commissioner on racism and Dr. Manju Varma's legal abilities and comparing those to a public inquiry. There is a whole lot more that can go behind a public inquiry. So we definitely need that in a whole bunch of areas, but for this discussion into systemic racism, we also need to be looking at making racial discrimination a punishable offense. So in New Brunswick, I can go out and fish in a lake, catch a salmon at a season, and Department of Fisheries and that department, I'm not sure the exact name, couldn't come to my home, seize my vehicle, my home, put me in jail, fine me. But if I am a victim of racism and someone harasses me because I am Black, my only recourse that I have is to go file a complaint with the human rights process, which is absolutely fundamentally flawed and really created by, white individuals to make it look like it works on paper. But the reality of it is most individuals who go through the process of the human rights end up broke and in a worse off position than when they started. So for me, I would say, we need to be looking into, having that resource available, being able to call a police officer, have them investigate, because right now through the human rights process, the burden is on the victim. I have to prove that I was a victim, where if I go catch a salmon, I mean, if I cut down a tree, they will perform a scientific analysis to prove that I cut down a tree on Crown land. But as a victim of racism, I have nothing. So those would be my, this is what we need to do.
Well said, Matthew. Well said. Dr. McCarthy Brandt, you have the last word.
Well, I can just say ditto to everyone on the panel. So respectful of everyone's voice. And I just want to say, like to Matthew specifically, I've been through the human rights process in Ontario because that's where I was racially profiled. And it was indeed victimization over and over again as a Black person in a trial trying to defend that I was treated wrongly. I did 4.5 years later win my case, but it was exhausting. I was offered legal expertise. I felt I was smarter than my lawyer, I was always reporting her to her supervisor, and she said, Mary, that's just the rusty wheels of justice. It's going to take time. Anyway, I did win my case 4.5 years later, but it was at a toll to myself, emotionally, physically, and financially, because I had to fly back and forth to Toronto. I just wanted to say a few things on what Yusuf said, and absolutely, our ancestors were enslaved. They were not slaves, they were enslaved. However, they did not enslave our minds. And that's why we are here today, because we all have the beautiful mindset to move forward. And the other thing I want to say is, I made notes and I can't find it, but I want to say that unity and community is what we need to do. I have a hard time trying to say how to break down the issues of systemic racism when we're not even at the table. Like there was a man writing in there, Mr. Tynes, thank you. We're not even at the table. How many Black representatives do we have in the government? In the municipal, you know, and even this, the systemic racism commissioner, I don't really know her, but I'm just not sure how effective her role is. I'm not putting her down at all. And even, I'll just say that I kind of sit behind the scenes, and when that poster came out, I had to write them, and they totally erased the Black presence from that poster. I wrote them and I said, you left out my community. You said, oh, I don't know if they even said BIPOC, but when they did the call, I made them. Well, I didn't make them, but I suggested that they change. And the minister, Alexa Dunn, she thanked me and she said, no worries, we're going to change it, you know, Dr. McCarthy. But like, who's educating the people in the provincial government to write these things? And they don't even have a sensitivity about what they're writing. And long story short, I want to use the example here in Fredericton. Thank goodness for Brunswick African Nation advocated for an racism, anti-Black racism, a city officer, and the municipal's response was an ex-police officer, white police officer, who thinks he can act with the community, and whole community, the Black community, have and made our anti-coalition, the name Yusuf, but our board.
Oh, Dr. McCarthy, I think we are losing you for a poor connection here. Oh, what a shame. She
comes back. She was getting some good stuff going.
Yeah, I know. She
was getting to the meat of the thing. So.
Oh man. Okay. Well, maybe let's just wait a minute or two. Maybe Sal, I'll hand it over to you. Just maybe capture some questions. But if Dr. McCarthy comes back, that would be wonderful.
That's right. Then she can follow. So there's a question here from Amin. And I find this very interesting. He said, how can we help employer point of awareness of systemic racism and employer training culture shock? So this could be to any of the panelists, if you want to shed a light on this. Okay, before that, yes, Dr. McCarthy, please take it on from there. Yes, thank you very much.
Well, all I really wanted to say, and Yusuf and Sa, who are on our committee, you can finish my thoughts. Like, we have grown together, and we have our own committee. And, you know, I think the mayor and this diversity officer who is stuck, I made a comment on CBC, which went out, of course, in the airwaves, and he was emailing me, I want to meet with you, I want to meet with you. And so Gary Weeks and I, another brother, we met with him. But, you know, I said to him, if this was a committee on the Jewish encampments, do you feel you would be able to represent? And he said, well, not really. And I said, how do you think you can represent our voices? You know, how do you think you can represent the racialized voices of the city of Fredericton? Anyway, he's still there, but we've kind of just ignored him and go directly to the mayor. So that's all I want to say. Thank you for inviting me to the panel.
No, you have just said it all, and the most in here, everybody will say, "I hear you," but they will never change it. I hear you, we will never change it. So it's the same phases, the same phases. Why would the white man want to come and be in control of all what is happening in the indigenous community or in the Black community? Why? Can't you feel ashamed? It's simple. I will not do that. I don't know about the next person. Be an ally. Help us. Let's grow. But you want to come and lead everything that I own. It doesn't even make sense. I don't see the mathematics. I don't see the mathematics. But unfortunately, that is what is happening. And so we're already over time here. Does anyone have any last questions from anyone? Yes, or suggestion? Yes, and Joel.
I would just like to throw out there, I mentioned BBI and I mentioned FACE, but if you're looking for self-sustaining community projects, startup funding, and you're youth focused, there's Dialogue New Brunswick also.
Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Anybody else have one takeaway or something you want to share before we round up this session?
I'd just like to say again, thank you to our panelists here to giving us your time and sharing all your knowledge. It was very interesting and to see all of you guys here today, and for us to continue working together and collaborating with our allies and partners like Dialogue and Rogers TV. I think they're here. So we have allies out there, Black Lives Matter, Ariane, John Howard Society. These are the people, these are allies that are out there, and they are working behind the scene to support our voices or to put our voices out there. So we want to be able to support you guys and mention you guys in our spaces here as well today. So thank you all.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? Dylan, Matthew, Jenny. All right.
I guess I'll just say thank you, everybody. It was wonderful to hear from you all, and I really took a lot out of it. And I hope this can go out and do even bigger things. So yeah, thank you for letting me be a part.
That's good. Precious.
J'allais dire merci beaucoup aussi pour l'invitation. Et mon souhait, c'est que on applique qu'est-ce qu'on vient de dire, qu'on fasse pas juste des dialogues sans pratique, qu'un jour on se retrouve en train de faire qu'est-ce qu'on est en train de parler, de faire des synergies et de faire des actions, d'appliquer ensemble pour des fonds et de faire des projets ensemble, Miramichi, Moncton, Fredericton, Saint John, au niveau provincial, qu'on fasse quelque chose pour nos communautés, ça c'est mon rêve. On est là pour collaborer, ne nous oubliez pas, même si on est loin.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Precious?
I just wanted to say big congratulations to everybody and thank you so much. And I took notes of all of your guys' names, all the panelists, and I'm gonna be adding you guys so we can all have a good connection. And so yeah, expanding the network, and hopefully we can all work together soon. And yeah.
Thank you so much. We're already working together right now. Just you being here, we're already working together. And I want to say thank you, each and every individual. With all what we have said here today and all what we are doing throughout this month and beyond, we are making an action plan on how to move forward. We're not just talking, but we're creating a plan on how to move forward. So be expecting you'll be receiving information from us again. From all our partners, everybody is gathering data information on how we can keep growing and fight those challenges all together. So thank you for being here. I want to take this opportunity to also extend our thank you to all the panelists and the New Brunswick African Association, BOTA NB, and to the translator, James Kucho, and also staff and moderator for the webinar throughout Facebook, on Twitter and everything. And Rogers TV, thank you so much again. And but also I want to give a huge thank you to all these organizations that are not listed. They are rich. I want to say thank you. Reach to the BBPN. Thank you very much. Black Lives Matter, New Brunswick. Dialogue MB. Thank you, Dylan, for being here today. Rose Nation. Thank you very much. Janine, thank you with what you're doing up there in Miramichi. Keep doing it, igniting it. Keep doing it. Please, please, please follow and join any program happening in New Brunswick this month. anywhere, run by anybody, organized by anyone, the more we keep joining those programs, the more we keep enriching ourselves and sharing and fighting against this same battle we all face and fighting against. So please take love from here, share with your community. There are many people who are not here today who would like to be here today. Share with them that this is what happened at this conversation. We are putting together an action plan with our partners, including DMB, and so that we can able to come back to the community and see how we can all work on resolution. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Asante, 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 asante. And Nadine, you can close the last word there for me, if you can.
You said it all. All I will add is thank you to the translator, James Couture. Merci beaucoup à la traduction. I dream of one day being able to offer these dialogues in multiple languages. It's something we are working on, so it will come, it will come. And I would just add, Walalan, Waliwan.
That's good. Thank you so much. Check our Facebook pages. We have a lot more events coming up, and share them. And whatever you are doing, share with us. Let's all do it back and forth, okay? You share with us so we can share what you are doing. That's how we do. Let's keep amplifying. For now, until then, have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.